everyone, my name is Keely. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of November. So I actually had a pretty good reading month this month. I ended up reading 13 books, which is tied for the second most books that I've read in one month. My average rating was 3.54, which is not that high. I would like it to be higher, but it is definitely not on the lowest end of my reading year, so take with that what you will, but I did read some fantastic books. As far as ratings go, I had 1 1-star, 2 2-star, 3 3-star, 3 4-star, and 4 5-stars. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about these books in the order that I read them in. So the first 3 books I actually read for a vlog that I posted this month, and that is my second episode of TBR Takedown, where I read 3 different sequels. I definitely had a wild time in that video, and these books I had so many different feelings about, but the first book I read in that vlog was Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco, and this is the sequel to Stalking Jack the Ripper. So in the first book, we follow characters Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell, and it is set in the 1800s. And Audrey Rose is not like your typical woman in the 1800s. She is kind of scandalous in that way because she is very fascinated by science, specifically forensic science. She is intrigued by death and autopsies, and she shadows her uncle as they are trying to solve the case of Jack the Ripper. Now this is the sequel, and it actually takes place in Romania, which just really did it for me. The setting of this book was incredible and just so beautiful and unique. It is set in an old castle in snowy winter Romania. It takes place in December, so there's just so much snow, and there's a small village down the path through the woods. It was just so atmospheric and wonderful. The descriptions of the castle were amazing, and it honestly reminded me so much of Hogwarts, and the village reminds me a lot of Hogsmeade. And there are some secret chambers in here that they do have to kind of go through like these tests and trials to get through. So it was very reminiscent of Chamber of Secrets, and I just absolutely loved it. The setting is what really sealed the deal for me. So in the first book, we also meet a character named Thomas Cresswell, and he's kind of a mysterious forensic student, and he's very analytical and very observant. And most people that read these books are completely obsessed with him and obsessed with Audrey Rose and their relationship. And in the first book, I really didn't feel that love for Thomas Cresswell. I felt the potential, but I didn't really feel it fully until this book. This book made me fall completely in love with Thomas Cresswell, and I also really do like Audrey Rose. Although she did anger me a little bit sometimes, I still really loved her, and this is definitely one of my favorite books of the year. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read for TBR Takedown was All of Our Demise by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman, and this is the sequel and conclusion to the All of Us Villains duology. Now these books take place in a magical kingdom called Ilvernath, and every 20 years in Ilvernath there is a deadly magical competition. So in this competition there are 7 magical families, and each family sends 1 champion into the tournament, and you have to fight to the death, and whoever is the last one standing gets the high magic for the next 20 years. So this has a very eclectic cast of characters, and we get multiple point of views throughout the story, and I really love each character, especially in the first book. However, in this book, there were definitely characters that I preferred more than others, whereas in the first book, I loved everyone. In this book, I was more interested and fell more in love with other characters. I feel like in this one, there were more splits into different factions, and there was definitely one group I was cheering for more so than the other. The magic system in these books is really fascinating for me personally. I just really enjoy it. So the way they do it is they put spells into like rings, and you have a whole like hand of rings, like think Thanos with the jewel glove. And every time you cast a spell, the magic comes out of these rings and it glows, and it's just really wonderful. But yeah, like I said, I only enjoyed some of the characters. I didn't dislike the others, but I didn't love them as much as the first one. And I felt like this book was really slow. There wasn't as many action scenes, and there was also a coupling in this book that I was not pleased with. It kind of gave me the ick. Overall, this book was disappointing, but I still did enjoy it at points, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read for my TBR Takedown video was The Merciless Ones by Namina Forna. This is the sequel to The Gilded Ones. Last year I read The Gilded Ones, and it was one of my favorite books of the year, and so I could not wait to get to the sequel. So in this world, this is a fantasy series, and we follow 16-year-old Decca. And when you turn 16 in this world, you go through a blood ceremony. If your blood runs red, you are good to go to join the rest of the village. You are claimed to be normal, and if your blood runs gold, you are said to be a monster and must be killed immediately. So of course, when Decca turns 16, her blood runs gold and she is in prison, and they try to kill her, and in the nighttime, a woman comes and tells Decca, so you can either stay here and die, or you can go join this group of women warriors. So it was really fascinating, the first book. There were monsters involved, there's like a training to become a warrior, all this stuff. I just really loved it. This one, did not like. I really kind of hated this one, actually. I did not like Decca in this one. In the first book, I really loved Decca, but in this book, I really hated Decca. I thought she was a coward, I thought she was weak, and I get it, she's been through a lot, but she just felt like a completely different person to the first one. I also did not like the writing in this book. We were in Decca's head a lot, and so I was very annoyed the whole time, and the plot for this one just felt like a mess. It was so chaotic, and it honestly felt like an entirely new world to the first one. Like, there were so many things that were introduced and we were just expected to know, and I was like, that was never talked about in the first book. Why are we here now? Who are these people? But yeah, if you want to know more of my real-time emotions, definitely go check out that vlog. But I gave this one 1 out of 5 stars, and I will not be continuing with the series. The next book I also have a reading vlog for, and that is my Caraval reading vlog. So I read Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and I buddy read this with my best friend Katie from Katie's Book Nook. We were buddy reading the entire series together and vlogging it. I really loved my Caraval vlog, so definitely go check that out. I had so much fun. However, this first book did not have a lot of fun. So this first book follows a Caraval, which is a traveling kind of like performance circus type thing run by this infamous guy named Legend that nobody knows. Now, Caraval only appears once every year and never in the same place twice. So we follow sisters Scarlett and Tella, and they have always wanted to go to Caraval, and now they are a little bit older and their father is severely abusive, and so they want to get away from him, and they get invited to go play Caraval. Of course, when they get there, Tella ends up getting kidnapped, and the winner of Caraval gets Tella. So Scarlett does everything in her power to win Caraval so she can get her sister back. So this is very reminiscent of Alice in Wonderland, and I hate Alice in Wonderland because it is a very nonsense world. And Caraval is a very nonsense game, therefore this world is just full of a lot of nonsense, and you genuinely have no idea what's going on because they always say, nothing's real, everything's a game. And so every time something really traumatic happens, or like if someone dies, you're like, okay, is that real? Or is that just part of the game? And you can never trust anyone. And so because of that, I really did not enjoy this book. I didn't have a great time. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. But as I continued reading the series, I feel like I should lower this, but I don't know. I'm going to stick with the 3 for now. I also did not like Scarlett and Tella at all. I really did not like them. The only person I really liked in this book was Julian, so he was the saving grace for me. But yeah, I was not a fan of Caraval. So after reading Caraval, I wanted a little break from that series just because I didn't enjoy it that much, so I decided to pick up Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is the author of The Love Hypothesis, and I loved that book, so I could not wait to get to this one. So in this one, we follow Bee and Levi, and they are NASA scientists. Bee in particular is a neuroscientist, which neuroscience is so intriguing to me. The brain is really fascinating. But don't get me wrong, I am not a science girly. But I love reading these STEM novels because they make them feel so attainable and like I can understand them as well. So in this one, once again, we follow Bee and Levi, and they are kind of like mortal enemies. They knew each other in grad school, and Levi was really horrible to Bee, and Bee just knows that Levi hates her. And of course, it's like an enemies to lovers situation. It's a romance book. What do you expect? But yeah, this one was really interesting because it does take place in Texas and in NASA specifically. However, I don't like Bee. Like, if we're comparing The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain, I like The Love Hypothesis more because Olive is a much better character than Bee. But Levi, I really did love Levi, and overall I love Ali Hazelwood's writing and I love her love stories, so I did give this one 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't that full 5 for me just because I thought Bee was kind of irritating. So after Love on the Brain, it was time for me to continue the Caraval series, so I picked up Legendary, once again by Stephanie Garber. This is book 2 in the Caraval series, and in this book, we follow Tella's perspective. Now, I was really nervous because, like I said, I didn't like Tella in the first book, although we didn't see a whole lot of her, but in this book, I loved Tella. She is a much stronger character and voice than Scarlett, and I just had such a great time following Tella. This place is also different than the first one, and I enjoyed this setting so much more than the first book. We do go through another Caraval game, but I feel like in this one, the stakes are much higher. We are introduced to new characters. Specifically, we get to see more of Dante, and I really loved Dante. We also get to meet a character named Jax, which he is the main character in the spin-off series, which I'm very excited to get to. But this one just felt like life or death for real, and there were higher stakes, there were fates, and kind of like tarot involved. It was a lot more intriguing, and I had a lot more fun this one. So I felt like I was getting more hopeful throughout the series, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And so right after that, I picked up Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is book 3 in the Caraval trilogy. I could not wait. I had to pick this one up right away. And oh my goodness, I loved this one so much. So I don't actually love Scarlet still, but she definitely grew on me and had a little bit of character development. But Tella is my all-time favorite. I really loved her. So this one upped the stakes even more compared to the second one, and I felt like we were really fighting for our life, trying to solve problems and figure out what's going on. And this one is actually dual perspective, so we follow both Tella and Scarlet. I do like Tella more, but Scarlet's chapters, I was worried it would ruin my enjoyment, but it didn't ruin my enjoyment, and it was interesting following 2 different storylines that had such high stakes. Once again, I love Julian, I love Dante. Legend's a really interesting character as well, and so I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. But once again, definitely go check out my Caraval reading vlog if you want to know all of my real-time thoughts about it. So after that, I was in the romance mood, and I decided to pick up The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. So this book is set in a small, cozy, witchy town, and we follow a character named Vivian. Now, Vivian has just been broken up with, and she decides to curse her ex-boyfriend, Reese, because she is very upset about it. And this curse is kind of a joke. They don't think it actually happens, and 9 years later, when Reese returns to town, she realizes that the curse actually worked, and now they're trying to figure out how to break it. So I really did not enjoy this one. I really dislike Vivian and Reese as individuals, and so I did not care for their relationship just because I did not like them. Now, a lot of people, when they read this story, they think that the love they have for each other is unrealistic because 9 years earlier, they were only together for 3 months, and then several years have passed, and so people are like, they wouldn't feel that stuff for each other anymore. But I get that part. Like, I truly get that part. Like, you can fall head over heels for someone in such a short amount of time and think about them for decades. Like, there are still some people in my life that I think about for years to come. So that part I totally get. What I don't get is their personalities. I just did not like them, and I also really did not like the witchy stuff. I thought it was just poorly done, and I just did not care for it. So I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. So after that, I was really craving a romance I knew I was gonna love, so I decided to pick up The Fake Santa Apology Tour by Julie Olivia. So this is a very short novella, so I'm not going to go too in-depth with the description because I feel like you don't need to know too much. But we follow a woman named Birdie Mae, and she is a Santa romance author, and she has this weird thing that every year around Christmas, she likes to have short-term relationships with fake Santas. And when she goes on a writing retreat to this small little hallmarky town, she meets this bartender that looks like a silver fox, maybe a little bit like Santa, and they kind of spark up this relationship. So I really loved this one. I thought the little town it was set in was really cool, and I thought it was kind of funny how Birdie Mae had this thing for fake Santas, because I've never read something like that before, but I just thought it was a really cute romance, and I also thought the steamy scenes were really, really good, so I actually gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. So after that book, I decided to go look at my TBR shelves, and I picked a random book off my shelf. I haven't done that in such a long time, and it was actually so fun to pick up a book that I've owned for years and just haven't picked up yet. And that book that I decided to read was The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. So this book is actually really interesting, and it takes place in the future, and we are set in this place called the Kingdom. And the Kingdom kind of resembles Disney World, except it is very futuristic. So in the Kingdom, scientists have discovered how to bring back extinct animals, and they also have these automatons called phantasists. Now, phantasists basically look like humans, but they are a little robot-y. And so we follow character Anna, and she is a fantasist, and she meets this worker at the Kingdom named Owen. And from what we know in the book, Owen has been murdered, and Anna is on trial for that murder. So this book is told through police interviews, trial transcripts, and Anna's side of the story. So that was a really interesting aspect, that it had all these different types of media within it. I love a good interview in books, and it was also really cool to follow Anna, who isn't strictly human, but she is learning to have human emotions, and she also has like a computer in her brain, and it's just really cool to follow a character like that. I had a great time reading this. I thought it was very fascinating. The world of the kingdom is really cool because it is like an amusement park, but like I said, they do have extinct animals, they have mountains, they have rivers, they have forests, like everything you can imagine is the kingdom, and people go here to escape from real life. And also, the fantasist characters are told that the world outside of kingdom is horrible, destructive, like has basically been burned down. Like people come to the kingdom because the world outside of it is so awful, and they are told this so they don't want to escape. But as Anna is growing more human, she realizes that maybe they've been lying to them. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I feel like I've been talking about this for a while, but it was just so unique and so different, and I just didn't expect it, and it was so much fun to pick up a random book from my shelves, so I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. So after that, my hold for Tokyo Dreaming by Amiko Jean came in, and I decided to pick it up. This is the sequel to Tokyo Ever After, and it is basically a retelling of the Princess Diaries, but like through Japanese royalty. So this book I did not enjoy as much as the first one. I really didn't like our main character. She made some decisions in here that I was just not okay with. We were introduced to a new love interest, and I was just not interested in following that storyline because the first love interest, Akio, was my absolute favorite, and I really loved the first book because of that relationship, and the fact that something else was introduced, I was just not into it. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It just felt very different from the first one, and I definitely recommend the first one over the sequel. Next, I picked up a Kindle Unlimited Christmas romance, and that was My Night Before Christmas by Amanda P. Jones. So we follow a girl named Amy, and several months prior she was ghosted by someone she was really interested in named Liam, and now when Liam randomly shows back up in her life, she has to learn to trust him again. So I did not have a great time reading this book. There was pretty much no Christmas involved, no Christmassy vibes, and that is exactly what I wanted. I did not care about Amy or Liam and their relationship. I just didn't feel it. I thought it was kind of cringy in a way, and I just would not recommend. Like, I don't know, it was also a sweet romance, not a spicy romance, and I was hoping for like a spicy romance because it has the cartoon cover, and so that's what I was expecting. Although I realized after I read it, it does say a sweet Christmas rom-com or something like that on top, and so I should have known. But yeah, overall it just didn't feel like the characters were developed, and the way that they were written, I was very annoyed by them, so I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. The last book I read in November I decided to randomly pick up, and that is Miss Peregrine's Museum of Wonders by Ransom Riggs. Now this says it is an indispensable guide to the dangers and delights of the peculiar world for the instruction of new arrivals. So this is a guide to the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series, and I really love that series. I finally finished it out earlier this year. This guide just came out and I decided to pick it up. It's very short, and this is said to be written by Miss Alma Peregrine herself, and it is told through pictures and stories, and it is just really, really coolly formatted. And Miss Peregrine also has annotations in here because this is the copy that she gave to Jacob Portman. And I had a great time reading this. If you love the series, this is purely for fans of the series like me, because I loved the characters, I loved the world, and so it was cool to get more of an insight to that and just different background and historical features that we were like introduced to in the world, but now we get to see more of it. I had a great time reading this. It is absolutely beautiful and really well put together, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So those are all the books that I read in the month of November. Let me know your favorite book that you read in November. I would love to know. But if you have made it this far to the end of the video, go ahead and leave the turkey emoji because Thanksgiving just happened and turkeys are for November. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, all my social media links will be down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!